Hello everybody, I'm Thomas, and welcome back to another video. This time I'm back with the 9th episode of my series, Let's Roll Up a Dungeon, where today we will be rolling up the dungeon, the Steamwork Trenches, using the source, Table Fables 2. Like in my normal fashion, I will first go over the source I'm using, then I will go over my dungeon outline I have prepared, and then finally we'll get to rolling up a dungeon. So Table Fables 2 is the second book of the Table Fables series, written by Madeline Hale. And I gotta say, these two books are probably some of my favorite RPG sources I have found so far. Pretty much anytime I play pretty much any RPG, I usually have them close by at hand, whether I need. In Table Fables 1, they have a lot of good like random name generators, or in this, they have town name generators. And in this one, they have a dungeon generator, which is what we'll be going over today. So I'll just real quick show you what's all in this book, and then I'll get to talk about the dungeon generator. So you have a whole adventures section about quests and random rewards. You have wilderness and travel for different events that could happen on the road and encounters, landmarks you might find, foraging. It has a whole chapter on ships, islands, and ocean travels for ocean events, ship generator, island generator. You have NPCs and enemies for an NPC generator, enemy encounters. You also have this whole items chapter for different loot types, weapons, armor, books. Chapter 6 is the one we'll be primarily focusing on, which is the dungeons chapter, which has the dungeon generator and everything related to that. Chapter 7 has building, so it has a building generator, house, and shop generator, which is pretty handy. Towns and cities, which is another one I use a lot in this book, which has town generator and town events. Then you have a chapter on worlds and kingdoms, kingdom generator, war generator, planet generator, and then they have a final chapter on religion. So you can have a god generator and a cult generator. Like I said, we're gonna be focusing on chapter 6 related to dungeons. All right, so as far as the dungeon generation rules themselves, there's not a whole lot here. Doesn't mean you're not gonna get cool dungeons because of it, but at least what we'll be going over, there's not too much to go over. So you have this dungeon interior, and first you have a D10 roll up here to see what's going on. So do you have a room, a hallway, or on a 10, you can have a unique room, which they have down here, which you could do a D8 roll to get different unique rooms. If you have a room, you use this column here to determine first the room's width with a D12 roll, and then the length with another D12 roll. If you have a hallway, you can determine the width with a D6 roll, and then the length with a D12 roll. Pretty straightforward. On the back side of this page, you have a table for doors. So you roll a D10 to see how many doors are in a room or a hallway. So a D10 roll on a 1 to 4, there might not be any, or there might be just one, or a D4's worth, or a D6 worth. Then you can roll a D4 to see where the door is located in a room. So if it's on the north, east, south, or west wall, that's what that is for. You can roll a D8 to see if a door is locked, unlocked, or might be trapped. And then finally, you can roll a D6 to see what type of material a door is. So 1 through 5 is going to be wood, or on a 6, it's going to be iron. Then down here, you have a stairs roll. So you can roll a D20 to see if there's any stairs, or if there's stairs going up or down. And then finally, you have a D20 roll on the area contents, whether it's empty, whether there's an enemy encounter, an item encounter, or an event encounter. That's pretty much all we're going to go over today. There's lots of other stuff in here for room type. There's dungeon events and encounters, and all sorts of other great little tables for filling the dungeon with cool events. But that's all we're going to go over today. So let me quickly talk about the outline I have prepared. All right, so today's dungeon is called the Steamwork Trenches. I kind of talked about last video. I kind of wanted to do a dungeon related to like dwarves and kind of mining. And so I took a lot of inspiration from the dwarves of Ironforge from World of Warcraft lore and came up with the Steamwork Trenches, because those dwarves are very related to mechanicals and engineering and mining. So I figured that would be kind of a cool dungeon idea. So the Steamwork Trenches is going to just be a small dungeon. As far as the type tags, I have a mine because it's partially in a mine, and also research lab because that's kind of what the two things combined. It's a mine that's also a research lab. As far as the detail tags, technological and mountains are kind of the two main ones that, describe some of the details of the dungeon. As far as the purpose, initially the Steamwork Trenches served a dual purpose. It was to enhance mining efficiency through steam-powered machinery and acting as a hub for Dwarven innovation in steam technology. The Iron Tinkerers sought to transcend traditional mining limitations, improving ore extraction rates and safety. As far as the history, the Steamwork Trenches, originally part of a vast network of mines beneath a mountain range, were transformed by a guild of Dwarven engineers inspired by Ironforge's craftsmanship. These engineers, known as the Iron Tinkerers, aimed to revolutionize mining and metalworking with steam-powered technology, making the trenches a center of innovation. However, their relentless experimentation led to a catastrophic explosion, causing widespread destruction. The disaster forced the abandonment of the trenches, which then became a perilous maze of rogue automatons and unstable environments. So, as far as some factions for this dungeon, first one you have is the rogue automatons. So, originally designed to aid in mining and foraging, these machines now roam the trenches, attacking anything in sight. Next, you have the steam golems, which are large, powerful constructs that patrol key areas, especially near important machinery or treasure caches. And then finally, you have the Iron Tinkerers. So a small group of Dwarven engineers who have returned to reclaim the mines. They can be allied or enemies depending on the player's actions. Next, for creatures and enemies, first you have mechanical spiders, which are small but quick. These enemies swarm in groups and are especially prevalent in narrow tunnels. Next, you have steam elementals, which are manifestations of the raw power harnessed in the mines. These beings are both resilient and dangerous. Next, you have the automated sentinels, which are large, more powerful robots designed for security. They patrol key areas and are heavily armed. And then finally, you have the corrupted engineers, which are dwarves who were twisted by the explosion and now roam the mines, driven mad by their exposure to raw energies. Now for a couple of quest hooks. First quest is called The Lost Legacy, which says a descendant of the original Iron Tinkerers seeks to reclaim her family's heritage. She needs brave adventurers to delve into the trenches to retrieve ancient blueprints and prototypes of steam-powered inventions. Next quest is called Echoes of the Past, which reads, a historian is obsessed with a catastrophic event that led to the abandonment of the trenches. He hires the adventurers to find and activate an ancient recording device believed to hold the last moments before the explosion. Final quest up here is called The Missing Explorers, which reads, a team of explorers ventured into the trenches weeks ago and hasn't returned. The adventurers must find out what happened to them and rescue any survivors. As for the condition and lighting of this dungeon, there's probably gonna be a lot of industrial decay and kind of mechanical chaos, flickering lights, possibly remnants of the original lighting system, probably hang from the ceiling, casting long, unsteady shadows. As for sounds, the soundscape of the trenches is a mixture of industrial and eerie elements, so the constant hiss and whistle of escaping steam form a persistent background noise, punctuated by the groans and creaks of stressed metal. As for smells, well, the air in the trenches is heavy with the smell of oil and metal, a reminder of the once active machinery. And finally, for the temperature in this dungeon, the temperature within the trenches varies dramatically. So in areas near functioning steam pipes or machinery, it can be uncomfortably warm with the air feeling thick and humid. And finally, for a couple of rooms. So the first room is the entrance gear hall, which is the main entrance adorned with rusting gears and pipes. Here, the adventurers encounter their first mechanical enemies and must solve a gear-based puzzle to progress. Next, you have the control room. Packed with levers and control panels, this room allows players to manipulate aspects of the dungeon, such as shutting off steam vents or opening locked doors. 3, you have the experimental labs. Once used for developing new technology, now these labs are filled with failed experiments, including hostile mechanical creatures and hazardous material. Next, you have the power core, which is a critical room housing the dungeon's main power source. Players must defend against waves of enemies while trying to stabilize the core. And then finally, you have the master workshop, which is the final room where the chief engineer's most dangerous creation resides, along with some treasure. With that all out of the way, let's roll up a dungeon. All right, so first things first is getting some sort of starting room. I guess I could roll a d10 to see the area, whether it's like a room or a hallway or a unique room. I'm just gonna say it's a normal room. That'll be the I guess, the entrance gear hall. So first, let me roll a d12 to determine the room's width. That's an 11, so it's going to be 60 feet width by, geez, 70 feet length. My goodness, that's a big room. All right, so there's that big old entrance room, I guess. So let's roll a d10 to see how many doors there are. And there's none. Dungeon over. Just kidding. I'll just re-roll this to get something better, hopefully. That's still none. Well, we kind of need some doors to make this dungeon. Still none. Come on, give me some doors. There we go. That's an 8, so that's d4 worth of doors. Okay, so there's 4 doors. Great. Okay, well, I put the entrance door down there, and then I will just roll this to see where the other 4 doors are. So the first one is going to be on the east wall. And then, boy, oh boy, hold on. I'll just roll like a d8 and kind of go from there to figure out where the door is. So 5. Okay, next door is also on the east wall, and that's fine with me. And this one's a 1. Okay, let's see where the next door is, and that's going to be on the south wall. I'm gonna re-roll because that's like the entrance. There we go, so it's gonna be on the north, and I guess I'll just roll a d8 again just to get a general idea of where it is. Okay, 7. Okay, actually I think a d6 would be better, so let me roll that. Okay, 1. And then finally we'll see where the last door is, also on the north wall. So then let me roll a d6, and that's a 4. Okay, so we got our starting room with 4 doors. So then let's start with this top left door way up here. Roll a d10 to see what's kind of beyond the door. And that is a 9, which means there's going to be a hallway. So then a d12, or first, I guess a d6 roll to determine the width of the hallway, and that rolled right out. 4 means it's going to be 10 feet width, and then d12 gives us, it's about 20 feet in length. Okay, well then I will just do another d10 roll to see what's going on with this corridor. If it's still looks like it's still a hallway. In that case, I'm not going to re-roll for the width. I'll just roll for the length. So that's 12. So it's going 70 feet. All right, so let's see what's going on at the end of this long corridor, and that's a 5, which is a room. Cool. Then let's go ahead and roll for the room width, which is going to be a 6. Is 30 feet for the width, and then 40 feet for the length. All right, cool. Room's drawn up. I think I'm gonna wait to roll for the doors for this room because I might just leave it without doors because this dungeon's only gonna have about 5 rooms total. And I kind of think it makes sense that this long hallway could maybe be like, that could be the control room back there, which I kind of like the idea of that being kind of its own isolated thing. So let's hop back to this door here and see what's going on with that. So a d10 roll tells us 7, so that means there is a hallway. So let me see, the width of the hallway is 1, so it's going to be 5 feet in width, and then 2 means it's 20 feet in length. All right, so let's see what's going on at the end of this hallway. That is going to be a room. So then d12 roll to see the width is going to be 20 feet, and the length will be 30 feet. Okay, and let's see what the door situation in this room is. So let me roll a d10 and see how many doors there are. Apparently there's none. Okay, so it's another kind of isolated room. Let's see what's going on with this door here. So a d10 roll gives us a 3, so that means there is a room. Okay, and rolling the room width, we get a 4, so that's 30 feet by 70 feet in length. Okay, then let's roll a d10 to see what the door situation is. Apparently there's no doors. I might change that. Yeah, I think I actually will change that. Let's just go ahead. I'll re-roll it till I get at least 1 door. A 6. Okay, so there's exactly 1 door. Let's roll a d4 to see which wall it's on. So that's going to be on the east wall. And then maybe I'll roll a d8 to get a rough idea of where it is. And that's a 6. Okay, well, let's see what's on the other side of that door. And that's a 6, so it's just another room. D12 roll gives us a width of That's 30 feet by a length of 20 feet. So 30 by 20. Okay, let's see the room situation on this new room. And once again, there's none. So that's that. Okay. I think I might, because I still have this door down here. I might get rid of this and then figure out kind of what I want to do with my, because I still need one more room. Well, actually, never mind. I guess I don't actually need another room because I forgot. Well, I got my starting room. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I kind of have everything here. The one thing I might do is I kind of want to add maybe some hallway that goes from like this room to that room. I think that would be kind of nice. So let me do that real fast. Yeah, something like that, just to make things a little bit more connected. And yeah, I guess with that all out of the way, this small little dungeon is pretty much done. So now we can go ahead and label it. So first room, the entrance gear hall. Well, kind of makes sense being the first big room. The control room, like I talked about, I think would make for a pretty good spot for that back kind of isolated room. 3, as for the experimental labs, I kind of like that being this room, the power core being over here, and then that leaves the master workshop as this back room. So now we can go ahead and do a final quick dungeon walkthrough. So the Steamwork Trenches dungeon all starts here in this big old room, which is the entrance gear hall. The main entrance, adorned with rusting gears and pipes. Here, adventurers encounter their first mechanical enemies and must solve a gear-based puzzle to progress. This top left door going north leads to a long hallway that then goes to the control room. Packed with levers and control panels, this room allows players to manipulate aspects of the dungeon, such as shutting off steam vents or opening locked doors. Then this door to the east goes to the experimental labs, which is once used for developing new technologies. Now these labs are filled with failed experiments, including hostile mechanical creatures and hazardous materials. The door to the east of that leads to the Master Workshop, which is the final room where the chief's engineers' most dangerous creations reside, along with some treasure. And then north of the starting room, and kind of connected to the Master Workshop, this room is the power core. So it's a critical room housing the dungeon's main power source. Players must defend against waves of enemies while trying to stabilize the core. And that's it for this dungeon. All right, so before I wrap up here, a quick teaser for next week's video, which is the last part of this kind of first main section of Let's Roll Up a Dungeon. And I'm not gonna tease really out anything. You gotta tune in next week to see what kind of dungeon I'm making for my final dungeon and what source I'll be using. After next week's video, I'll be doing 5 more episodes in the series, but we'll be doing stuff a little bit differently where I won't be preparing a dungeon outline. I'll be picking one game system and using multiple sources that I've used in previous videos to help roll up those dungeons. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be greatly appreciated. And until next time, I'll see you.